Welcome to Talking Talk, formerly Talking Talk Tua, the companion podcast to Talk Tua with Haley Welch and Chelsea Bradford. We're your hosts. I'm Pete.
I'm Cam.
And, the reason we've had to do a bit of a refresh on our, brand identity is just, the fact that we were invited on to Talk Tua. We were blessed with the opportunity to meet the hosts of that podcast themselves in person and chat with them and get to talk to them about their show after 6 months of critical analysis that we did here on our show. But in going on their show, we kind of spoiled our own appetite in that we became biased. We realized that there's no way to hide the fact that, meeting Haley and Chelsea in person was going to instill a serious bias in us and, really damage any kind of credibility we have when it comes to nonpartisanly, analyzing their show going forward. So
that's right.
We've had to, put some distance between us and the show. And now we realize that, Haley, I think, really opened our eyes to the fact that there is a wide world of podcasts out there, like really incredible series about all kinds of things. And why not, pay them some attention? Why not dig into what makes so many podcasts so great?
Why not take the skills that we learned analyzing Talk Tua and apply them to an entire ecosystem of podcasts across Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean. There's so many amazing creators out there that we really haven't had time to really dig into.
Yeah.
And in today's episode, moving forward, we're going to be sinking our teeth into, various shows. We might be doing some deep dives on creators when necessary. But we're just going to take it week by week. We're going to be looking to have more guests on. Yeah. We're going to be looking for critical analysis and just kind of incredible breakthroughs, seeing what we can discover.
Yeah.
What we can learn about ourselves through these discoveries on the show. Today's episode, we are analyzing the pilot episode of Mr. Joe Rogan's podcast.
We kind of decided, why not take a look at the top dog of the podcast kingdom? I mean, Joe has been in the game for almost 16 years now. This first episode was released in 2009. We went all the way back to his debut on the podcasting scene to really understand how this cosmos was truly birthed.
Now, he started this at 42 years old.
Yeah.
He has a family. He's juggling responsibilities. He's doing commentary on fights. This really felt like more of a kind of like chat body experience rather than what we know today as a podcast. I mean, podcasting culture has changed.
I'd say this aired closer to the side of streaming, which has become only more massively popular in recent years. But, this is streaming in which, Joe is in dialogue with viewers of this, podcast episode.
That's right.
We are broadcasting live. This is my office. This is Brian Redban, a.k.a. Redban. What the fuck is going on? The questions are coming in now. How you guys doing? We're doing swell.
It's a two-way street, which you don't see anymore with podcasts. Right now, the industry, it's heavily produced. It's like shows. It's almost like talk shows, right? It's like we have incredible teams, union camera people filming. It's audio visual. It's incredible. But really the only engagement that fans can have is through comments, through DMs.
Yeah.
And with Rogan's pilot, he was literally chatting with these people. It felt really special.
Yeah, it really set Joe up as this salt of the earth kind of guy back in 2009. And, he's just interfacing directly with viewers of the show as it's happening. And, he's there with his first guest of the show, Brian Redban, who is serving a bit of an astute IT technical director role.
A.k.a. Brian Reckel.
Yes, Brian Reckel Redban is helping Joe get the show on the road, setting up this live stream.
Start broadcast.
Update to Twitter.
Update to Twitter. So you can see what the chat is. And then press pause on that,
On this?
No, on
the one on the channel. Right.
And then update your internet tonight.
And I mean, I don't know when Clippy debuted on Microsoft Word, but I think Brian might have taken a few notes out of Clippy's playbook and just really helping Joe get started with this thing, really understand from start to finish what goes into setting up a live stream podcast.
Yeah, well, I think Brian needs to do a little bit more research about RAM and just digital latency and stuff like that, because he was adding all kind of visual effects that were, adding so much lag on the episode. He was adding falling snow. This was recorded on Christmas Eve.
Cool.
And then we'll add a clock for that guy.
This is for 2000. No, we don't need a clock.
Yeah.
Kill the clock. The clock's ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought they
He
were
was
fun
adding-
flourishes.
He was adding, well, I don't think Joe thought that. He said a couple of them were gay.
Yeah, and Joe did use that colorful language, but he, I think it just added a sort of je ne sais quoi to the episode.
I think it did too, but at what cost? I mean, there was so much drag when they were just throwing on the effects, and this was Brian's idea. I thought Brian was an interesting character throughout this. I mean, we came here to see Joe. Brian is really the producer, the man behind the camera, kind of a Mr. Robot
Kind of
fellow.
like Splinter.
Well, I think Brian was a bad influence on Joe, actually.
Really?
Yeah, of course. You didn't get that?
No, not
Well,
at all.
Okay, well, Joe had some medical marijuana that he was showing off to his fans. The almost 400 people that were watching the episode,
Look, he was
and
passionate
Brian picked it
about
up. Brian picked it up with his license.
And if you have one of these right here, this is Brian's. If you see this is a real legitimate recommendation from a doctor. And this, all you do is you go to a doctor and you say, marijuana helps me sleep, whatever. And the doctor will give you one of these legitimate recommendations, a legal prescription in the state of California for marijuana.
Okay, and he did Joe a great service. I mean, Joe is clearly passionate. He's learned in the field of medical marijuana. He goes on extensively in this podcast episode to talk about what states have legalized it, what haven't.
Well, Brian also asked to go shooting guns with Joe on the Monday following this podcast. I don't think that's... I mean, as long as they're being safe, but who is this guy? It just seemed like he was into drugs, into guns. He claimed to be there to kind of produce the show and support it, but he was kind of just adding all these wonky features into the podcast that were really bringing it down for me and just making it so hard to listen to and watch, don't you think? I could have done without Brian. I'm going to go out on a limb. You might persecute me for saying this, and that's okay. I know you like to hold grudges. I could have done without Brian.
Yeah, you could have done nothing without Brian. I don't think there would have been an episode 1 without Brian, given that he got this thing on the road. I mean, he provides so much technical support behind the scenes.
Technical support.
Or
okay.
actually on the scenes. I mean, he's right there doing it.
Was he? Okay, let's hone in on something here.
Okay, yeah.
Let's dive in like Falcons.
Yeah, please.
2 minutes, 23 seconds. There was a whiteout glitch.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, totally. Right.
It was a flash of white.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Got the tiger by his toe.
Okay.
Look, there was a whiteout throughout the entire episode. Joe's sitting next to IT. This guy couldn't figure out how to fix that. Okay, so it was just a flash of white light. What about people who are prone to seizures? Watching that? That's not very responsible.
Could have been an avalanche from all the snowflake effects. I don't know. It could have just been piling up and it just, overloaded. But look, it came back. It's not like this was a lasting outage. And, we hear audio all the way through these white blips.
But the whiteout was throughout the entire episode. I'm just saying, if Brian had the skills to be Splinter, so you say, why couldn't he fix that little mistake? Okay, he's proficient in iMovie, sure.
Yeah.
But does that give him legitimacy to produce a podcast like this? No, it doesn't.
I think so. I mean, look, he got this stream up for 2 hours. It's a 2-hour, 4-minute podcast. Anyone who can get this stream up for that long in 2009 on just fucking hand-me-down internet deserves a fucking Nobel Peace Prize as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's important to note that, sure, maybe the technology wasn't there. This was a podcast before Avatar.
Have I seen Avatar yet? No, I have not. Brian and I are gonna go see it probably the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
So
pre-Avatar, pre-Christmas 2009. I mean, this is right on Christmas Eve. Joe, is making it clear right out the gate that podcasting is going to become his life. I mean, he's going to work on holidays and everything else to make sure that listeners are fed and happy.
And this is with a family. So later in the episode, he actually got the 10-minute light from he answered a phone call during the podcast.
Yeah.
Right, maybe that's why they're so hot. Who the fuck is calling me while I'm on my podcast, god damn it. Oh, that's the house. Excuse me, I'm in the middle of a podcast. Oh, how much longer should I be? Okay, you want me to end soon? Hi, Muffin. Daddy's on the internet. Okay, 10 minutes, okay? Okay, bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the reality. See, you see me, fucking stand-up comedian / cage fighter. No, pussy-whipped husband and daddy. Daddy has to stop smoking weed and doing his little webcam show because everybody wants to eat and they want to open up Christmas presents.
I thought that was very serendipitous because you look at Joe now, look at Mr. Rogan's podcast. Yeah. Is he going to pick up a phone during the middle of an episode? He's got deals with Spotify. He's got all this money flowing in and out. There's something about this, first go at the industry. This raw pilot that, do we wish there was more of it? Do we feel like Joe has really evolved and grown as a creator and a podcast host since then?
I mean, look, you get a call from your wife on Christmas Eve, you better pick up. I don't care what you're doing, if you're doing open heart surgery or what.
Okay.
But when your wife and kids are calling from home and it's 4 hours to midnight before just Santa comes channeling down that chimney, I think you got to pick up.
Well, this is a Christmas episode.
Yeah,
that's important to know. For me, my watershed moment was when Joe was talking about conspiracies. I think a lot of people like to say, that's his thing. He loves talking about conspiracies, all this stuff, ancient aliens, ayahuasca, what have you.
Yeah.
He was talking about all that kind of stuff in this first episode.
Yeah.
So he's always been into this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But later in the episode, he was talking about Santa Claus and how he knew Santa wasn't real from a very young age because he walked in on his parents as a child wrapping the gifts.
Were you pissed when you found out there was no Santa, or did you find out?
I found out there was no Santa because I stumbled into my parents wrapping shit.
Oh, really?
And I was like, and then we opened it the next day. I was like, oh, what the fuck? Like I hid and I saw them and then I just put 2 and 2 together.
And I almost wonder if that did some kind of damage on him, that then he's been drawn to these conspiracies. And I wonder what Joe would have looked like if his parents just locked the door.
Yeah.
Or let him open one early on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
And then they could have wrapped while he was opening it or something.
Oh, a primordial theory. Unfortunately, it's bullshit. Because, Joe makes it clear later in the episode as well that, he opens his presents on Christmas Eve.
So do you open your presents on Christmas Eve?
Tonight we're going to open presents.
Why do you do that? Is that something you grew up doing? Or?
I'm impulsive. I don't want to wait. Why should I wait? I'm grown up.
You do it at midnight?
No. Do it in an hour or something. I better get some good shit too. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, he doesn't have time to wait. He admittedly says that he's, impatient. He needs to open these gifts as soon as possible. So I don't think that really, adds up with the theory that he saw Santa delivering the gifts like night into Christmas. If he's made a habit of opening them up Christmas Eve.
Look, I'm just trying to connect the dots of this episode is heavy with the conspiracies.
I mean, these dots need no connection. I mean, these dots are as far away from each other as they can possibly be.
Well, what else is spread out throughout the episode? One thing could be all the discourse about Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
Rogan got into Hunter's work around 40 years old, and he loves him. I think he had a lot to say about drugs.
Yeah, he watched a documentary, I believe, Gonzo, on pay-per-view, in which it outlined a bit of Hunter S. Thompson's life work, and Joe's been hooked ever since. I mean, he's plowed through a couple of Hunter's books. He goes on extensively about Hunter's background in the 60s, and yeah, he's quite impassioned when it comes to discussing the works of Hunter S. Thompson.
He even gives a plug to The Great Shark Hunt.
Yeah.
Have you read that one?
I haven't read that one. I read the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and on the Campaign Trail 72.
Oh, so how'd you find him? Pay-per-view?
No, I think I discovered him on my parents' bookshelf. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That's a standard edition book. You'll see that on any suburban bookshelf.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah, please.
Analyzing the set, where this takes place, because it's not so much the conversation with podcasts, it's what surrounds it, right?
Yeah.
That kind of modern art of it, and to me, this felt very postmodern with things like, on the bottom of the screen, www.twitter.com/joerogan.net.
Yeah.
There's a plug for his Twitter on this. It's a little unclear how the chat was asking him questions, if they were live tweets or if they were chatting with him directly.
I think originally there was some other chat feature built into the stream, but then he was only accepting questions sent through Twitter.
Oh, okay. Well, the set, I think it was a great start.
Yeah, it was.
It was a great start. We have we ran it through a simulation. I wouldn't say it's all the way centered. The make me hard sign.
Yeah.
Now, it was addressed later in the episode. Do you feel like it fit on set? Do you wish you saw something else? Maybe, the show's title.
Yeah, it's a relic of traditional media's failures, because Joe goes on this long rant about how when in creating the Man Show, the network really provided him whatever he needed to do, all the sand he needed in his sandbox, but when it came to one specific thing, titling a segment "Make Me Hard," the network had a number of notes. They drew a red line through the hard and said that we can't do this segment unless it's called "Make Me Stiff."
Right.
Now, do you know a difference between stiff and hard?
Stiff and hard are, if anything, stiff to me feels more graphic.
Yeah.
Because hard is just more the common lingo.
Because stiff is just one letter off from staff, which is, phallic in nature.
And hard is one letter off from herd.
Yeah.
The mass of people think it's okay to say that. Look, the game show was kind of like a try not to laugh challenge, except you were trying to get hard.
Yeah.
So you sit in a chair.
Yeah.
And
I think they're strapped up to a platform, actually.
They're tied in, and they're made hard, or should I say stiff?
Stiff.
Now, Rogan took problem. There's one moment on the show, and I think this is why, he was kind of ramming against digital censorship and such, but, there was this girl that came on, and he said she was beautiful. She was dancing around, shaking her ass, shaking her tits, shaking her boobs, all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And then she takes down her pants.
Yeah.
And she has a penis.
Yeah.
One of the gags was we had this really hot chick, and she climbs all over him. The audience is going fucking crazy. They're going nuts. And this really hot chick, at the end of this, she pulls her tits out. He's sucking on her tits, whipped cream, the whole deal. And then she pulls her panties off, and she's got a dick.
That hit Rogan like a ton of bricks over the head.
It had the whole studio go erupt. They had no idea this was about to happen. The guy in the chair was like, whoa!
Right.
I didn't know that. I was being strapped in for that.
And she pulled it out, and she starts, swinging it around, and the fucking audience went crazy. And the guy sitting in the chair just had this look in his face of horror.
Now, it's important to note that this performer was able to get the contestant fully hard.
Stiff.
It really just kind of is interesting to note because later in the episode, around 26 minutes, 13 seconds, he talks about his favorite comic, Joey Diaz, who must be a comics comic because his best bit is coming out on stage naked with his balls flying around everywhere.
Joey Diaz is one of the funniest dudes I've ever met in my life. He's like one of the funniest human beings to ever live. And Joey weighs like 350 pounds. He's down to 300. But back then he was like 350. And he would always get naked. He would get naked all the time. Get naked on stage. And his balls literally look like grapefruit in an old lady's pantyhose. I mean, they're fucking ridiculous. And he doesn't shave them, but they have no hair on them.
And his penis out.
Yeah.
So his dick is out and his balls are out.
And Joe says his balls look like two grapefruits in a granny's panties.
That's right. And he's saying that's appropriate to me. I like not only do I like seeing those balls, but when those balls are out, it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm just enamored with joy.
Yeah.
I'm giggling and I'm laughing out loud. But when you have a performer going on this show, doing what she's supposed to do, making this contestant hard, but then her balls come out, it's night and day for Rogan.
Yeah. And Joe, like, expand your horizons a little bit. I mean, granted, we're now in 2025. This is 2009 that he's, taking this kind of hard line on a transgender performer.
Right.
I hope you've changed your ways, Joe. I haven't tuned in and I haven't tuned into your recent stuff.
We haven't watched any recent stuff.
But, I hope that, you can treat this performer and Joey Diaz the same way.
That's right, because let's say this performer went to the Chicago Improv,
Yeah.
and started making jokes about doing cocaine in a Waffle House bathroom, what have you.
Yeah.
With her balls out.
Yeah.
Would that make Joe laugh? Or conversely, if you had Joey Diaz on the show, Make Me Hard, shaking his ass around, taking his balls out, would that get the contestant hard? And would that be now a problem for Joe? These are things we need to look at and consider, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, too. I don't think we've considered the angle that maybe Joe has an infatuation, or the fact that the part of Joey Diaz's act that impresses him the most is the balls.
Well, what makes Joey's balls different from some performers' balls?
Well, we don't know. The thing is, we don't know if that performer showed her balls.
It was just the penis.
It could have been that the performer took down her pants just enough to reveal the penis, but not the balls. Because Joe made no comment about that performer's balls. So maybe
and we don't know if Joey took out his penis. Was it just balls?
Yeah.
I mean, Joe said that
he's totally naked.
Well,
unless
Joe
he has
said
a
Joey
cloth
came
over
out
that
naked.
thing.
Sure, and I don't know how you'd hide the penis at that rate. You could always kind of French tuck it under your balls. You're gonna need some
hiding
string.
your balls, essentially.
Well, your balls would be more pronounced. You French tuck it under.
But they have to go around.
You pull your balls out. You stretch your flaccid penis, and you kind of tie it around from the side.
Like a balloon animal?
And you just bulge your balls out.
Okay.
So, there's going to be a lot of careful work involved.
I got to go to one of these Joey Diaz shows, I guess is what I'm learning.
Well, I've never been either, but around 27 minutes and 51 seconds, I thought this was a beautiful moment. The snowflakes disappear.
Well, you don't like the snowflakes? They're dragging the video stream down. Oh, you know what? You might be right, dude.
Here,
The snowflakes might be fucking us. Freedom. No more snowflakes. Is that better, everybody?
Oh, I'm sure it's better.
My internet's gay.
And the RAM of the digital show, increased. There was less lag.
Yeah, less latency issues, less ping.
It was just a smoother experience.
Yeah.
And I really like that kind of two-way street that he would ask, even technical advice with the fan saying, guys, what audio sounds the best? And he would kind of do an eye doctor exam, one or two.
Okay, what sounds better? There's 3 settings to this microphone.
This is 1.
What sounds better? This is setting 1. Ready? Hi, my name is Joe Rogan. This is setting 2. Hi, my name is Joe Rogan. Is this better? Does this sound better to you? Or setting 3. Hi, my name is Joe Rogan. Does this sound better to you? Which one sounds better, ladies and gentlemen? Please, tweet now.
Option 1 won.
Right.
Option 1 was the winner. Let me be clear. Getting my homophones mixed up. But option 1 won the competition. 3 came in second. Second was just way too quiet for the audience. I think 3 just was too blown out is what my analysis was in just hearing that sample. But option 1 was pretty nice. Well-rounded audio all around there. I think for me, the biggest moment to tie it back to Christmas is when Joe shows a stash box that a very cool couple gave to him soon before this episode was recorded. They shared this custom-made stash box.
This is an awesome box that some wonderful couple got me. I'm not sure if the dude made it or the girl made it, but this is like a killer stash box that these 2 cool people gave me.
And the girlfriend, the partner in this couple, gave him a hand-blown pipe to smoke marijuana out of.
Yeah.
And then she made me this killer little pipe, and I'll get it away from the snowflakes so you can see.
And Joe is just showing this to the camera. It looks like a really nice custom pipe. And I'm just like, Joe, Christmas came early for you. This is awesome. And you can see him. He's like giddy. like a child. And it was nice to see a podcaster who's fresh on the scene already this enthusiastic about, kind of the show and tell nature that a podcast offers for the host to share with the audience.
Because I think he was really excited about that, visual element of it, right? I mean, before this, he talked about how talk radio had been going down the tubes, right?
Yeah.
You had these titans of industry like Howard Stern, in the Rat Pack, what have you. But for, greener voices, it was really hard to make any kind of money.
Yeah.
So he's trying to utilize the technology at hand, and with that visual element, and of course, Brian the Bum's help. I'm going to call him the Bum. He is.
No, it's uncalled for.
He is, because I think it might have been Joe's idea that the snowflakes disappear. So 30 minutes in, and Brian doesn't even take the hint that they're lagging all over the place. I mean, this was like launch day of Sunset Overdrive. It was just horrible. Look, so many bugs, so many issues.
Just because Brian wasn't totally clean on all his plates doesn't mean that Joe was totally perfect in his presentation of this episode either. I mean, the make me hard sign at 21 minutes topples over.
Beyond the mind's eye.
Yeah, the Sakal show is fucking... Oh, what the fuck?
Major set malfunction. Keep in mind, this is in Joe's office.
Did Brian set that up?
Brian's the technical director.
But he's the producer after all.
He's the IT guy. He's doing the technicals here. I think right. Joe had this sign hanging in his office, and clearly this wasn't podcast proof.
I just don't know how many excuses we can make for people, especially when we've seen the kind of sabotage that goes into other shows. We've seen the nasty tricks and dirty work that these cam ops do on Talk2A. Yeah. We've seen the way our favorite content creators get thrown around and pummeled by these thugs.
Yeah.
They're barbarians. Now, I'm using that language there.
It's pretty crass.
With Brian, we're going to see how he evolves. He's grown with the show.
Yeah.
And I think he is probably a force to be reckoned with starting, incredible podcasts. But I'm going to hold his feet to the fire when need be.
Okay.
Because that's how you make a podcast grow.
Okay.
And I think this could be useful for, we're going to explore some of Joe's other episodes.
Yeah.
And see, if Brian has fixed some of those glitches, if, he's figured out the snowflake glitch. Also, on the screen, where it said follow me on Twitter or whatever, there were 3 L's.
Okay. Well, Joe did the typing on that.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Joe did the typing. I mean, Brian helped him resize it.
Brian should have corrected it.
Yeah. I mean, Joe, he was typing so happily. He was finger happy on the keyboard that the text started spreading way across the margins of the screen, and Brian had to step in and resize the text box so that it would, you could fully read the message.
Here, see, this is one of the things that we can do. You can hit this text, you can add a new text, and so if anyone ever asks you, you can just type in.
Oh, here we go.
And then you can shrink the size and.
What's the size?
Right below.
Font size right here?
Yeah. And then you can move the box, like maybe move it to the top or something.
Doesn't want to move.
You just click on the box and then drag it.
Oh, that's okay.
No, do the other way.
Wouldn't do it.
Misspellings and all.
There were a couple moments where Brian seemed hesitant to correct Joe.
Really?
Of course, another moment, 32 minutes around then, Joe was talking about a Guillermo del Toro flick, but said Pan's Labyrinth.
You know what's the fucking shit that Pan's Labyrinth, the thing that had the eyes on its hands? That Guillermo del Toro dude was pretty badass, but I gotta say his book sucks.
Instead of Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, his tongue, occupied too much space in his mouth in that moment, and he just stumbled right over that
Well,
word.
was it purposeful, do you think? Was it a shot at Guillermo?
Well, I mean, maybe it was a little cherry on top of the diss that was coming, because Joe then directly calls out Guillermo's book, saying it kind of sucked.
That's right. He's not a fan of his novella.
Yeah, about a plane full of people who go missing because they turned into vampires. Joe said, amazing concept, it just did not follow through. Which, I haven't read it, but, I'll take Joe's word for it.
I thought it was brave for Joe to speak his mind like that in the pilot podcast here.
And I was also impressed, I have to hand it to Joe, for his ad read. Already on episode 1 of his show, he does an ad read for iPhone.
This is the best phone of all time, the iPhone, ladies and gentlemen. You really can't fuck with it we've tried every other phone. I'm a technical fucking geek. I'm a nerd. I love phones, but there's no phone that can fuck with the iPhone.
Now, I don't know if this was authorized by Apple, but Joe takes a solid minute to just sing the praises of the iPhone.
That's right.
And then he sings the praises of Verizon and how that has the best cell service out of any provider. And then he also talks about the BlackBerry Storm 2, which is like the actual phone he uses because...
it's better than the BlackBerry Storm 1?
Yeah, it's better than the Storm 1, and also...
Okay.
It has connectivity with Verizon, and his calls never drop. So BlackBerry Storm 2 is his, phone's phone. But iPhone is what he really does all his internet searches on, and he says this is the future, and he correctly predicts this. I mean,
and he talks about how good the iPhone is before Flappy Bird, before Helicopter,
before Pocket God,
before Clash of Clans,
before Tiny Tower.
Before Fruit Ninja.
Before Angry Birds 1.
Before Temple Run.
Before Fun Run.
Before Doodle Jump.
Yeah, before Fruit Ninja.
I already said that one.
Oh,
it's okay.
Fuck.
We can move on.
There's just so
Look,
many.
there was some foreshadowing
Yeah.
in this episode. Joe was wearing what looked like a UNICEF hat. Now, it was unclear whether this was a snapback or a beanie.
Yeah.
But it almost looked like the symbol on it was a third eye. And, that Rogan, if you look at Joe Rogan's podcast now, he has that whole, third eye, in the profile picture.
Yeah.
This felt like a foreshadowing of that.
Wow. Yeah, his iconography certainly, depicts a third eye. Wow, I didn't even pick up on that. That's very astute.
But, we get a taste for his style with that hat, with this kind of cool Soulja Boy-inspired look, who he admits he's a huge fan of.
Yeah.
And... I just thought it was so incredible how we got to really know him as a person. He talked about how his favorite game is Quake.
Yeah.
He loves playing billiards. He doesn't like the Jonas Brothers because they don't get any pussy. And what's the point of being famous and rich if you can't get any pussy? Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Just what he said.
Yeah. He's very prone to forming habits. He said that's why he can't really get into golf because he's seen what that's done to plenty of guys before him.
Yeah.
Who they're just constantly practicing their swing wherever they go.
They're trying to improve their craft.
Now the only golf I played is mini, and I got into a bit of a habit with that, but I broke free of that. And Joe, yeah, you probably don't want to try the hard thing.
Now I thought that one of the biggest reveals for Joe, to me, was when he showed his gun.
What if someone breaks in your house and you need the gun and you just go like that and you got the gun and then that keeps you alive? Right. There's that way of looking at it. There's the way of looking at it like, hey man, if you think that way, man, fucking nothing can happen to you, man, as long as you think positive. You could think that way. You could be one of those dudes that goes through life convinced that nothing ever bad is going to happen to you. That is possible. You might sneak through, but shit might get ugly. And if shit gets ugly, you want one of these bitches.
Yeah.
It was a pistol.
A Glock.
And he kind of got into his mentality that, there's a lot of people in this world.
Yeah.
And are you going to trust humankind?
Yeah.
Just with a blank check? Are you just going to say, maybe I can skirt through life with nothing bad happening to me? Or maybe I buy a gun for protection.
Yeah.
Because he said that he's met a lot of effed up people.
Yeah.
In this world. And he says, you'd rather have it and not need it than not have it and need it.
Yeah. Very astute point.
No, I think, for podcasters, should you own a gun? I mean, if you're working out of your studio, you might need to protect it at some point. What if someone comes in, tries to steal your XLRs in the middle of the night?
Keep it taped under your desk, table, whatever you have.
Some real life Clash of Clans. What if someone comes in and they want to jack your make me hard sign?
Yeah, storm your podcasting fortress.
You have to be able
God
to
forbid.
defend yourself.
Yeah.
So, overall, I thought this was a really incredible episode.
I do want to say that, I think this gun mentality does admittedly feed into a bit of Joe's cynicism that reveals itself in this episode. At one point, he's talking about how most people only ever talk out of their ass.
Yeah.
You shouldn't really trust what people are saying online a lot of the time.
Because that's a fart.
Yeah. And he specifically pins this almost on Bill Maher, because Bill Maher comes up with some kid theory that he has about Jesus not being a real figure in human history. Joe is like, look, this is a pet theory that a lot of people share. You got to do some more research. You can't keep talking out of your ass.
And farting.
Yeah, but it does concern me because Joe's like attitude that way with like just the discourse online and what you can see in the digital age, it worries me because, podcasting he's made it into such a big industry.
Yeah.
He's been a pivotal figure in this. And for him to have such like a naysaying attitude about people's, intelligence and, thoughtfulness when it comes to important matters, I'm just like, Joe, trust your craft. Trust the brand you've built. Trust the brand that other people are building. So many capable podcasters are out there speaking incredible knowledge, being fonts of intelligence. Mm-hmm. I think you got to be a little less hard on these people.
Well said, especially when, you have this ongoing dialogue with your fans. And I think maybe he pioneered that. And maybe if he's looking to the future of his show, he needs to look back in time, as we've seen from this pilot episode, of you need to directly engage with your fans.
Yeah.
We see him talking in culture about, I'm getting out of California, I'm going down to Texas, California's fucked.
Yeah.
But Joe, you have to remember why you fell in love with California in the first place. It was one of the only states in 2009 that you could get medical marijuana, and you were just going on and on about how high it would get you and how much fun you had smoking with Brian.
And you were smoking it out of custom-made bowls that very cool couples give to you?
Right, and California gave that to you.
Yeah.
But now you don't like it anymore. I think California needs to come back stronger with podcasting.
Yeah.
I think it needs to, Gavin Newsom has a podcast. We've looked at it.
Yeah.
But maybe that's something we can look at the podcasting tax credits because, getting more of the industry back here. A lot of it's fleeing down south to right to work states, right to podcast states.
Yeah. But there's a clear solution, and it's just subsidies. I mean, make it easy for young upstart podcasters to find their footing in this golden state.
Yeah.
I mean, California has so much to offer in the way of, it made traditional Hollywood in its heyday. Why can't it make the Hollywood of podcasts?
Well, this is new Hollywood. And there's also so much beauty in California to drag people, from where they fled back here.
Yeah.
So they can see these beautiful and marvelous views through their windows where they're podcasting inside, which is just an awesome way to spend your time. And
so, Gavin, just something to chew on. I mean, I'm so happy that you've been dipping your toes into
well,
this.
Gavin and Joe.
Yeah.
And maybe Joe could come back here and just and give it another shot because I think the industry is hurting. He's,
But Gavin's got to build that bridge for Joe, I think. I mean, it starts at the top with political leaders, unfortunately, until podcasters get there themselves.
But you have to wonder, too, if maybe, with Rogan's podcast becoming so big, maybe that's kind of taking the fun out of it for him.
Maybe.
Because, in this episode, he's laughing.
Yeah.
He's having fun with Brian, who's, even though he's destroying the latency of it with bubbles and snowflakes. You're going to fight me on this later. I can see it in you.
I think that they were cool it was cool to see whatever software he was using, all the effects, because that was impressive in 2009, all these digital effects.
Sure,
I mean, this is pre-Avatar.
He's a photo booth wizard.
Yeah, and I think it was cool to see a modern day guru playing with this just 16 years ago.
But I think the thing is, it felt more low pressure. It felt fun. He was doing this in maybe his man cave or his basement, his own creaking cave. And then he finished the podcast and he went upstairs for dinner with his family with a, next week kind of planned out. He's going to go shoot guns with Brian on Monday. And, what a life.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful.
This is the iPhone first coming out. All this amazing technology, just, so it's coming. It's down the pipeline. It's waiting for you.
Yeah. And I think it was also important to note that Joe's wife was incredibly lenient with him in that when she called him about 10 minutes before the episode ended, Joe actually went on. He soldiered on for 12 minutes. He told her,
a little bit of a bad boy.
I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Oh, Brian didn't say anything, did he?
No, he didn't. But
because Brian heard over the phone it was 10 minutes, but
well,
he was
who's
watching
the bad
clock.
influence? Is Joe the bad influence on Brian? I think it could be argued either way.
I don't know. I just think if Brian maybe had more of a respect
And
for
I don't
Joe's
even think it's
family life, maybe he would have cut him off at 10 minutes on the dot.
But I also don't think it's a bad thing to take some extra time to tidy up your podcast episode and have a
Or
nice,
I think if
clean
you're
ending.
a man of your word, I mean, he's making promises to his audience to do a 2-hour podcast weekly.
We are going to do this again. Don't know when, but within a week, right?
Yeah.
We'll commit.
We should do it once a week.
Commit.
2
We're going to do
hours
this once a week. 2 hours once a week.
I think that's a good
All
idea.
right.
He made a promise to his wife to only do it for 10 minutes longer.
Okay.
So if we see him breaking vows all over the place, that's, I don't know if that's a podcaster I can trust. And, Brian is clearly paid off. He's not going to challenge Joe.
I mean,
right?
Joe is releasing 2, 3, 4-hour epics weekly. 16 years later. I mean, I think he's
And
kept
where's
that.
Brian?
Look, I mean,
Where's Brian?
He's out doing whatever he needs to do.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure he's providing IT support on other incredible podcasts, but Joe, he kept.
I
His
just think he should respect the Atomic family on Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
I think it's more on Brian here than Joe, and I know you agree with me,
yeah.
even if you don't say it now.
I don't.
Let's just put
agree
a pin
with
in
you. I
this.
think that Joe, he kept his podcaster's pledge, and that's the most beautiful thing of all. Is that he set that pledge. I'm going to do this weekly. This is more important than any pledge I make to my wife in this moment because look, you, my viewers and audience are my lifeblood at this point, and I think that's really beautiful that he has kept that promise to provide 2-hour episodes minimum weekly for 16 years. Think about that.
Well, I hope the whiteout flashes stopped pretty quickly after that.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe we'll check out some others of his earlier episodes. I think it was really important and poignant to get to the heart of how did this whole
Operation start.
Yeah,
And it started with a friendship. It started with a love for his fans, a love for his craft.
yeah,
I think it was pretty sidereal, him talking about Bruce Lee
yeah,
and talking about why he was such a legend.
yeah,
Because, Joe's really into fighting. And he said, you would train with karate guys and they would say, you can't do kung fu. You trained with kung fu guys. They say, oh, you can't do karate.
yeah,
And it was, so faction based. But Bruce came along and he pioneered the idea of, why don't I just take the best things from each sport and kind of do this mixed martial arts, right?
makes sense to me.
And so I think with Joe, you kind of see that mentality.
Yeah,
He's taking kind of the best forms of entertainment and kind of creating the smorgasbord. He's taking talk radio.
yeah.
He's taking, almost like a soap opera with the
Yeah.
drama that's going on, right?
He's taking live streaming.
Yeah, and he's combining all these things, the best part of them,
Yeah,
to create the perfect form of entertainment
yeah,
podcasts.
yeah,
I really think he godfathered the podcast.
yeah.
We see it in this moment.
Because sure, there were other podcasts before him that did video. A few. I mean, a podcast started out audio, but Joe was probably the first big video podcast.
That's
guy.
right.
I mean, he really dug his heels in here, planted his flag, and look, he sowed his seeds, and they're being grown today. Still,
That's right.
he's harvesting for years to come.
Now, like Joe, I feel like we're finding our footing. And, we had so much fun analyzing Talk Tua. In her absence, we were analyzing other shows and critiquing them. And we're always looking to improve our craft.
Yeah.
We have this completely refurbished studio. We have these beautiful marshmallow couches
Yeah.
From Ashley Furniture.
Thank
the
you,
best in the
Ashley
business.
Furniture. Yeah.
Well, we paid them.
But it still needs to be said. I mean, Joe paid for his iPhone and his BlackBerry Storm too, and he still thanked them.
Well, I just want to make sure we're not confusing any endorsements for
Okay, I see.
We traveled down to Culver City. I mean, it was treacherous to get these, but it was
was.
well worth the risk.
Yeah, and we hope that you enjoyed this first episode of Talking Talk, our rebrand as a podcast. Independent still. I mean, look, we got
That's
that.
right.
We got over our bout of bias in covering Talk Tua. We decided, look, what if we just broaden our horizons and check out all the beautiful podcasts and other forms of discourse that happen online. And we hope that you enjoyed our deep dive into episode 1 of the Joe Rogan Experience, guest starring Brian Redban. Please let us know if you'd like to see us cover any additional Joe Rogan episodes, any that really stand out to you.
Or let us know if there's any podcasts that you're really infatuated with, because
Yes.
There's a lot of beautiful content out there.
Yeah.
If there's anything you want us to cover, let us know.
Yeah.
If there's any guests you'd like to see us converse with, we're always open to suggestions, to feedback. Like Joe in this pilot, we want this to be a dialogue.
Yeah.
Kind of a two-way street.
Yeah.
Right?
So please always chime in with any suggestions for how we can better our show or what shows you'd like to see us criticize and analyze and offer insight on. So, yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this one, and take care until next week.
We'll see you next week, guys. Thank you.
See ya.